Hey there, welcome back to Tim Talks Cooking. Today we are talking, get this, we are talking keto New York cheesecake, my friends. You heard me right, that's keto, sugar-free New York cheesecake. And I've got a delicious recipe here that I've developed after reading really dozens and dozens of recipes on the internet in the past couple of days. I think you're going to like this one, so let's get started. Here's what you'll need to make the crust for this cheesecake. One thing that all New York cheesecakes seem to have in common, at least according to the research I was able to do, is they have a sweet graham cracker crust. And so in order to ketify that, I'm going to use here 1 cup of unblanched almond meal to get that color of the graham cracker crust. If you only have blanched almond flour, please use that. That'll be just fine. Can you substitute coconut flour? No, you cannot. Next, you're going to need 4 tablespoons of melted butter and also 3 tablespoons of erythritol, or the equivalent amount of some other sweetener that you like. I've also got 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract here and some salt. We're going to want a nice pinch of salt. I'm going to say even maybe a ½ teaspoon of salt. We want this to taste like something, so we're going to put flavors into it like that. Notice here I've also got some room temperature butter that I'm going to use to grease my springform pan. You really do need a springform pan to do this. You can do it without. It's a little harder to unmold and serve if you do, but it's still delicious. Anyway, this is a 7-inch spring mold pan. You're also going to need a larger pan. You might want a roasting pan or something. My pan just fits conveniently in this, so I'm going to use it because we're going to make a bain-marie, or a water bath, to cook this in, kind of like we would do custard. It helps the cheesecake cook evenly and to remain moist so it doesn't crack so much. I'm not really that worried about cracks, but I think it'll make a nicer cheesecake if we do it this way. You're also going to need some parchment paper and some heavy-duty aluminum foil. You may want to get, if you're going to make a larger cheesecake than this, you might want to get the extra wide aluminum foil. We're not going to need that here. I'm going to begin here by preparing the springform pan. This is a little unusual, but this really works well, especially to help serve it. I'm going to take a piece of parchment paper and just rip it off there. And I'm going to open up my mold, just like this. And put the paper down here. And then I'm going to put the top back on. And we're going to have that in the bottom of our pan. This is going to make it so much easier to remove the cheesecake onto a cake plate. And here, as you can see, I've given it a little trim around here. Now we're going to use, to seal the bottom even further, we're going to use a nice big piece of aluminum foil. Make sure you don't tear it on the way out. We'll set this right in the middle of it. And then we're going to just simply lift the edges up so that it completely surrounds the bottom of the pan so that no water can penetrate. Make sure we get all our edges up, just like that. Perfect. And I'm going to set it in this larger pan, like that, and fill that with water about halfway up the sides of this. Preheat your oven to 375 and put some water on to boil. We're going to need that for our bain-marie. In the meantime, let's make our crust. Here I've got that cup of unblanched almond meal. To it, we're just going to add the rest of our ingredients. There's our butter, the sweetener, that's 3 tablespoons of erythritol, good healthy pinch or 2 of salt, the vanilla, and here we just want to combine them. This is going to be our graham cracker crust. See, there's really nothing to it. And next of course, we want to put this into our mold. So I'm just going to transfer everything from the bowl into the cake mold. And very easy, really, to just press it down with your fingers out to the edges of the pan. To make sure our crust is an even thickness, I'm going to use a measuring cup to simply press down, actually all over the bottom of the mold, to smooth out the top and to see if we can get as even a layer of crust as possible. This is going to go into my 375-degree oven for 10 to 15 minutes. You want to keep an eye on it, and when you smell it getting toasty, pull it out of the oven. My timer just went off. It's been 15 minutes, and here the bottom here is still a little soft, and so I'm going to put it back in the oven at 375 for another 5 minutes. You can see it's starting to brown around the edges here. That's really good, but we don't want this to be mushy in the center. So back in the oven it goes for another 5 minutes at least, and we'll be back when we've done with that. And now here we are after 5 more minutes. This is still a little puffy here, but it's more solid, and I'm just going to leave it like that. I think this is going to be fine. I don't want to cook it any further at 375 because almond flour tends to burn at a fairly low temperature. I don't want this to brown anymore, so we're going to leave it go. We don't want this to cool completely before we put the filling in it. Okay, now for the filling, here are the ingredients you're going to need. And you're going to want them all to be at room temperature. So I hope you're not in your kitchen right now, standing there with cold cream cheese and sour cream and stuff, going, oh, I want to make it right now. Put the stuff down, wait a couple of hours, let it come up to room temperature, and then get back to it. You need 16 ounces of softened cream cheese. Right here I've got 1/3 cup of sour cream. This is a cup of erythritol. You can use any sweetener you like, of course. That's an equivalent sweetness to that amount. You can even use a little more, a little less, depending on your taste, of course. I've got 2 large eggs, a tablespoon of lemon juice with the zest of the lemon. I make this ahead of time, freeze it in cubes, and thaw it out for recipes like this. I've also got a tablespoon, a generous tablespoon of vanilla extract here. You're also going to need a stand mixer or a hand mixer or a food processor or something to blend this together. Now here you can see I've got the cream cheese and the sour cream in the bowl of my mixer. We're going to lift it up here, and using the paddle attachment, I'm going to combine them by stirring them and then beating them together a little bit. What we want is a smooth, very smooth, homogeneous mixture here. So I'm going to scrape the bowl down, and we're going to do this a couple of times while we proceed here, because there's always a little something in a corner of the bowl or in the very bottom. You want to make sure you get everything in there. Next, we're going to add in the eggs, one at a time. Turn it up to beat them in. Add in the second egg when that's fully incorporated. Now, after you've scraped the bowl down, you're going to want to add some of the other ingredients. And let's start by adding some erythritol gradually, but just a little bit at a time at first. Keep stirring it, of course, while we're doing this. And now just a little bit more. There we go. And a little bit more. And finally the rest of it. There we go. The vanilla, of course, and the lemon juice and lemon zest. And we're going to continue to stir that until everything is all blended together. A little salt. And there we go. Now we're going to scrape down again, of course. You're going to want to taste this for sweetness. That is, if you don't have a problem with eating raw egg. If you have some issue and you can't eat raw egg with confidence, don't taste this at this point. Just kind of trust your sweetness. For me, I just tasted it. This is plenty sweet for me, and we're ready for when that crust is all cooled down now. And here's what we end up with. It's a beautiful, nice, smooth, very homogeneous mixture. And right now what you're going to want to do is turn your oven down to 325, or turn it back on to 325, preheat it to that temperature. And you're also going to want here to make sure you've got some boiling water, because we're getting ready to prepare our bain-marie. To prepare the cake for our oven, we're going to take our now completely cooled crust, and I'm just going to fill it with the filling. Really fills up the pan nicely. This is going to be a beautiful little cheesecake. Give it a little shake to even it out, and that's pretty much it. No reason at all to be intimidated by the bain-marie. Here I've got one cake pan that's larger than the one that I'm using. This is actually kind of small for what we're doing here, but it'll be just fine. I'm going to start by, because my pan is so full, I'm going to start by adding my boiling water to this pan, just a little ways up the side. Let's see if that doesn't kind of do it. This is going to really fill up that space. Carefully, of course. Oh yeah, that's just perfect. My water goes up just about an inch. And you know what, if it didn't, let me look at it here. I could add just a little bit more, and I'm going to do that by just simply and very carefully pouring it in on the side like this. Okay, next step. Now you have to remember this, it's important with the bain-marie. You just poured boiling or very hot water into this pan. It's a hot pan now, so you need to use hot pads to put it into the oven. So I'm going to open my oven door. My oven's been preheated at 325 degrees, and in this goes, very carefully, I'm going to set my timer for an hour, but this could take an hour and 10 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes. We'll see how it does in an hour. Okay, my timer's just gone off. Let's have a quick look. Here we've got the cheesecake. It looks kind of puffed up. It's browning on the top a little bit. I'm going to give it a shake. It's still a little jiggly in the center. We also want it to be firm around the edge here for about an inch, inch and a half all the way around. We're not quite there yet. I'm going to give this another 10 minutes. Okay, now my timer's just gone off. It's been 10 minutes. Let's have a quick look. I'm going to pull it out so you can have a look at this. If we give it a jiggle, and this is what we're looking for here, we want the center to be jiggly, but the outside to be pretty solid. And look at that, I think that's where we're at. Getting a little brown here, and if you touch it gently, you can see it's fairly solid. And that center again, have a look. Give that a little jiggle. I think we're done here. Now, something else that's common of New York cheesecake recipes is the way it's cooled very, very gradually to avoid the cracking. Now again, I can't guarantee that my cheesecake isn't going to crack, but let's give it a shot here. I'm going to turn the oven off, leave the oven open a crack just like this for an hour. My timer's just going off. It's been an hour now, and here, let's have a quick look. We've got our cake. This is now cool enough for me to touch. And you can see so far it's not cracked. It looks like it's going to eventually crack, but that's all right. Let's bring this out up here. Here I've got it on top of the stove, and again it's cool enough to touch. I'm just going to lift it out of the water bath, and now I'm going to transfer this to a rack. Now I'm going to remove the foil. We don't need it anymore. And there we are. And now I'm going to put it on a wire rack and leave it to cool until it's completely cooled. It's going to take at least 3 hours. After that, I'm going to put it in the refrigerator overnight. All right, next day, and here we are. You can see my cheesecake didn't crack at all. It had an unfortunate little accident in the refrigerator where something fell on it just momentarily, but I kind of saved it. Doesn't really matter though, because we're going to decorate the top of this cake in just a moment. But first, we need to unmold it. I've got a paring knife here, and I'm going to use the dull edge, not the sharp edge. This is a non-stick pan. I hope I don't scrape any of the stuff off. Anyway, I'm going to use my paring knife, and I'm going to stick it in there all the way down. And we're going to run all the way around the outside of this cake. It's okay. You can see I've got, here, let me get past this. You can see I've got a few little shavings that are going to come out. This is not going to turn out perfect. It's okay. Like I said, we're going to cover up all the imperfections. And there we go. To be expected. Now, moment of truth. Pop that spring. And I can already tell you, we're going to have some stuck to the sides. It's not a tragedy. Okay, now don't freak out. I know it's looking a little rough. We're still not done unmolding it. We've got that pan on the bottom. We want to get that too. So we're going to take a small plate. I'm going to put it on top. And I'm going to bring it over here and I'm going to invert it gently, very gently. Just like that. And now, I'm going to lift off the pan first. Oops, kind of came right off there. And next, get the paper off. Next, I'm going to invert it one more time, and this time I'm going to use a larger plate, and I'm going to try to make sure I get it in the center of the plate pretty much. And again, gently invert it, quickly. And there we go. And now we're ready to decorate. Clean the plate up a little bit, and we're ready to go. To make decorating the cake just a little easier, I'm going to put it on a rotating cake plate. And there we go. I'm going to start here. Now, this is for a special occasion, and I'm going to start here with some beautiful sugar-free chocolate ganache that I made here. I'm going to just use an offset spatula to frost the entire cake, the top and the sides. And here I'm just going to be very gentle so we don't disturb much. This ganache, by the way, I should probably do another video for it. To make it, you need 4 ounces of unsweetened chocolate. I used 100% cacao. 4 ounces of heavy whipping cream. And I used a tablespoon of powdered stevia, which won't make it grainy or anything. See, when you have a rotating table, it's very easy to neatly cover the top of your cake. Here, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to also cover up this chocolate layer as we decorate. I'm going to continue to decorate the top with slices of strawberry. Let me just show you how I do it. Here's a strawberry that is not hulled yet. I'm going to cut out the top. I just use a paring knife. I dig it in. I make a little hole there and just pull out the top. Next, lay it down on its top and slice it thinly, just like this. And make sure if there's a little piece of green hanging on that you get it off before you put it on the cake. Next, as you can see, I've begun to arrange my strawberries with a point out on the outer edge of the cake first. They don't all have to match or anything. This will look really pretty when we get done. And we're just going to continue until we've covered the entire top of the cake. Well, and here we go. You can see in the end, in the middle, where there was a place for one, I put a whole strawberry. It has a nice little green top on it. I think that's very pretty. You could also, of course, cut the top off and turn it upside down with the strawberry standing up. Little whipped cream would also make this very pretty. I think this is decadent enough. I'd love to have a taste, but you know what? It needs to go in the refrigerator for about an hour or two so that that ganache can set up nicely. It's been 2 hours, and I think we're ready to get a slice of this bad boy here. I mentioned this was for a special occasion. The occasion is my 57th birthday. So it's my cake. I get a piece of this cake whenever I want. So check it out. All right, now what I've have here is a glass full of pretty warm water. I used the hottest tap water I could get out of my tap. And I've had my knife resting in it. I want my knife to be slightly warm. While we do this, I'm also going to wet it and warm it back up between each cut. Here I'm just going to cut one slice out so we can have a look at it. Now here, go right in, give her a slice. It's a nice solid cheesecake. Back out cleanly, and like I said, we're going to warm it up and clean it off in between cuts. There we go. And I'm thinking about there. Straight down. Nice confident cut, right? We'll see how I did with my New York cheesecake here. That didn't crack, but that was still not perfect. But look at that. It's very pretty, I think. And let's see if we can grab a nice slice out of here. Oh yeah, look at that. And then we've left a little crust behind. I'm not going to cry about it because it's never perfect. But look at that. Well, all right, let's give it a taste. Man, I think this just looks lovely. Oh yeah, isn't that beautiful? Mmm. Oh. Mm-hmm. Wow. That is so delicious. Let me just say before we go, even if I am the birthday boy, small portions of this at a time. It's very, very high in calories, but boy, is it delicious. Really great. Low carb, high fat dessert for anybody, even if it's not your birthday. I love the strawberries. Listen, thanks so much for watching us here today at Tim Talks Cooking. Before you go, please don't forget to like, share, especially on Facebook, comment, and subscribe to my channel. It helps my channel grow, and it helps you find my videos, especially if you click on that notifications bell. We'll catch you next time. Tim Talks Cooking.